Hey, it's Mike with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It is November 4th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And as expected, it was a wild and crazy day. We had a relatively nice rally, really, for most of the morning into mid-morning, and it's pretty much not really what we had here was a spike in a channel up. We spike up and went into this channel. It's a little steep, but it's really perfect price action. We had a break here, a couple legs up to a new high, and then we sold off and we were in this downtrend channel here really into the close. One thing of note here, notice that there's a two-legged correction right here that comes back and confirms this trend line. So what you'll want to do, usually those, a lot of times those are the middle of the, or the center of a pattern. So if you measure this leg up here and then look for a measured leg up, it gives you this line right here. And you can see that's pretty much where we found our resistance. We went a little bit higher. This was a really strong trend, but we broke out. We did go a little higher, but then we sold off. So that would have given you a nice target this afternoon. And if we'd continued to go higher, I would have measured this whole two legs here. But really, you got another leg right here that you might have measured. And then looked for a measured move here too. And we didn't quite get that one. This one was really during the early mornings of the overnight. So technically, that's the one I like the best. And then with the two legs, then looking for a measured leg. And you go from there. Somehow I'm coming off this time. What did I do different? I'm not sure. But anyway, that would be your measured move. Maybe I moved that blue line by accident or something. Yeah, because that was the target right in there. We went a little bit higher. But anyway, you can see that. So always look for those measured legs. And remember, if it's a strong trend and you get a two-legged correction like that, obviously there's a bunch of legs in this first leg, and then there's a couple of legs. But you can clearly see at a higher level, there's two legs back to the trend line, and then we took off again. So, but I'm going to back out. We'll talk about the channel up. And actually, after we had the break here, we kind of went over into this flatter yellow channel, and there's channels, more micro channels within that. So play all of these channels. They really help you. And you can see even within this yellow channel, there's another micro channel in there. So a lot going on, a lot of different, remember the market's layered, and so there's a lot of different levels. But I'm going to move through these trades relatively quickly because there's a lot of them, and it's getting late in the afternoon, and it's just been a crazy day. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time going to explain what each trade is and move through them pretty quickly because there are a good many trades, and it's a long trading day with a lot of volatility and a lot going on. So anyway, let's come back here and we'll start around the 7 o'clock hour. And 7 o'clock came right about this turn here at the high. And you would have probably already had this channel because you should have probably tried it off these two swings here and then drug it up. So you might have had that channel. Maybe you don't. But you definitely should have had this one. And it's clearly working higher. There is a little close outside here that continues on before you get another close. But you'll see that some in the overnight. You'll get some moves. You might get a close outside and the channel continues on. So that's not completely out of character as long as you get a setup and really things are still working. But really by this time, you're kind of looking for this thing to maybe reverse. So, but you get up here and you get a first entry and you get a second entry, and this actually broke lower and turned and went out the other side on an engulfing bar. And you would expect it to probably push up and try to make a new, retest that high and make a new high. So you might go long there. It's a little bit aggressive, so I'd probably wait. But it makes a new high, then it makes a lower high. And I didn't mark this one. It looks a little congestive, but it is a long way away from the EMA. And you do have a break and a new high. So that's another one that you could argue that might you might have looked at it as an aggressive trade, or you might have even taken it. So I'll give it a green one. I'm not crazy about it just because this is a fairly strong move up, and sometimes you'll get that second leg up, so you could get a little trap there. But being that far away from the EMA, there's a high probability we're going to at least come back to the EMA if we do make another leg up. So you may want to take that trade. There's a reversal here, but we're still on the upper side of the EMA. Notice that this is basically a double top, and you come down and you go first entry, second entry, but technically that's still all one move up. So I looked at that as first entry, and then now you got your second leg down and a second entry long. So that's where the failure is, and that is below the EMA, and that does confirm that trend line. So if we break lower, we're probably going to drop on down. So that's the better way to play that. Technically, you made a high and you made a little correction and another high right there, but you can clearly see that that's still all part of the same move up. And so now you've got a clear 2 legs down with a failure on the second entry long. So I like going short there. We turned down off the trend line again here. There's a little hidden second entry, but I just don't think I would take that one. Again, it's one you might argue to be green. So we could probably mark it green, but and there is a second entry. Notice you move up and then you come down and you move back up. The breaks aren't there, but if you went to a little smaller chart, let me make this a little bigger. If you went to a little smaller chart, you'd clearly see 2 legs up and a second entry short. And then we break out of here and you get 2 legs up again. There's 2 measured legs up there. There's leg 1. There's leg 2, and it's not quite a measured leg. You probably want to measure it more like that. And that gets you a little closer. But anyway, there's still 2 legs up there. But notice what happens. You shoot right through the EMA. You get a first entry short. You get a second entry short. And you might have considered going short there too, because this little short-term trend line does have a close outside and new high right there. But that only looks like 1 leg up to me. This would have worked if you'd have gone short, but I'd be hesitant here, especially the way that thing pushed through the EMA so strongly. And when it makes a failure right there, I like going long, looking for another leg up. And obviously we turn down right there, and we try to go higher again and make a lower high right here. Technically you could have entered, this one actually makes the higher high, so technically you probably would have wanted to enter there. So because it technically breaks higher there. And if you do enter on one like that, the way I recommend doing it, until this bar is finished and closes, you probably want to have your safety stop above this bar. So I'm not sure how that played out. It's an engulfing bar, so you might have waited for this one, and that's why I originally had it there. But technically it breaks higher there. But I don't know if it went lower first and then went higher, or if it went higher first and then went lower. And I don't know if I would enter on an engulfing bar there. And then this one really does the same thing. It's another engulfing bar. So it's really a little bit congestive. So I'm not sure exactly how you could play that based on how that worked out. Technically, you'd be better off to wait for here where you get the true reversal that creates a trap. But again, it's just a little bit aggressive. It breaks higher and turns and goes down. This is definitely engulfing bar, and this one did break higher. This is the one I'm not sure about because it really looks like congestion right there. And so you're probably better off just to skip that trade. The key is you got 2 legs up, and you've had this leg and a break and a new high. So we're so far away from the EMA, you hate to waste an opportunity to try to come back to it. So that's why I marked it, but we probably just make that one green because I'm not sure how those bars played out. I don't remember. I do know this one broke higher and turned and went lower though. And it's the better place to enter, although they're both a little aggressive. And then we tried to go higher again, but you end up with just an inside bar, and now you got congestion across there. It works out again, but just wait. And it does come down here and starts bouncing up this EMA, or I'm sorry, up this trend line. And we're so far below the EMA that you might want to try to catch that back, but I just don't see a good entry there. There is a failed second entry short right here. So, but it technically triggered right here. So I don't think you want to try it. This is not rejection off these lows, and then we end up in kind of going sideways. So I think you're just better off to sit and wait. You make a higher low right here. You finally break out and make a higher low, and you can see that trend line still holding, but you don't get a very good signal bar. And it comes back again, and it just kind of repeats sideways again here. But notice this time we are at least creeping up and making higher highs and higher lows. And notice you got a first entry, and then it tries to go lower. This is basically just a higher low with a good signal bar. That's the reason I like that one. This was just an inside bar, really. So even though it's a higher low, it's not a very good signal bar. But this one ends up making a lower low and then making a nice signal bar. So technically, that's still your signal bar. So I like going long right there. And you can see it's still working up that trend line. And if you catch that one trade, that's a nice move up. And we take off, and you really just don't get another chance. This is such a strong move. And this is one of those strong trends where the corrections are very shallow and you get lots of dojis and sideways stuff. But that's a strong trend. And you got one leg here, and then you'll probably get another leg here. You just don't really get a good setup. That looks too congestive. So finally you get a little correction, and you get the higher low here that really bounces off the trend line. I like going long, and that is a second entry long. First entry, pull back, second entry. Then we run up, and you get another first entry, and then pull back in a second entry. And again, it's right off the trend line. Yeah, it looks a little congestive. It's a little sideways, but that's the way these strong trends tend to look like that. What it is, prices just cannot go lower. The market's really strong. We come back here to the trend line yet again, but it's just a first entry, and you've been away from the EMA a little while. So I'd probably wait. It would have worked, but this is what will happen to you a lot of times. Of course, that's not a very good signal bar, but you could have had one there, and then you try to go long and you get burned. But there's a quick 2 legs back, and that is the first break of this yellow trend channel working up through here. So there's a good chance that we may make a retest of the high. So the only problem is we're a little bit below the EMA. We didn't get much support right there when we came down to it. That's not really a good sign. I marked it green, and it would have worked, but it's not a perfect setup by any means. And it ends up being it's technically not a failed second entry long because it got its 4 ticks, but that's not a very big move at all. So you could treat that like a failure if you wanted to go short there. Again, it's a little aggressive because that's a little bit congestive. We're kind of just stuck between the EMA and some support across there. So, and you can see we just kind of chop on down, and we started off in this steeper channel, and then we leveled off into this flatter one. And it actually confirms it here with a relatively bearish bar, and you could look at that as a failed second entry long. That's technically not a new swing high there. So, but it still looks like 2 legs down, but I'm not going to mark it. It's just a little bit too aggressive, and really you're getting close to the trend line again, where you're probably going to find a long, which would be your better entry. And again, you get a first entry, second entry. So if it breaks above here, that's a big bar, and it's a little risky, but it's still a good trade. It's a failed second entry short that leads to a pretty good move, although it takes a few minutes to get going. I marked it, but it's a little aggressive. It's just, I mean, that if you look at that bar, that's a $325 risk on that bar. So, I'm probably going to change that to green. It's just a little too risky. But it does meet our entry criteria. And then we run up here, we actually get a close outside, we try to go higher, and we just sell off again. And we get a break of this main big trend line right here. That's the big one that's been the spiking channel, two-tiered channel that's been trading up since early this morning. We finally get a break here. You get a little failed second entry short here, but it's underneath the EMA, not a good setup. And we run up again. No decent setups here. We just start working sideways, and then I would draw that trend line off those first couple of swings. You would have kept drawing it here, and then finally you get a higher low. But the main reason I like it is you've had multiple tests of this low, and you got a bullish bar. You don't probably know. It looks like it's confirming that trend line, but you don't really know that yet until you probably get up here a little higher. But you're just playing this sideways channel, and you've bounced once, twice, three times. That's actually the fourth time with a nice bullish bar. And you actually, I mean, at this point, you're really just looking for a scalp, but look at it go. So, and that does kind of confirm that trend line, although I'd want another touch of it to confirm it. And when we come back this next time, we actually get a break. But notice first entry, and so that's a second entry long when it breaks higher there, and that's the first break of the trend channel. It is a pullback to test this breakout area. It's a pullback. Notice when we pushed through that midline, we tested it once, and we came back and tested it twice before we went higher. That's pretty common. So I like that second entry. And then there's a higher low here. It actually breaks lower, turns up. And so you get a chance to go long there. This one is, I marked it green. It's a little aggressive. There's a little bit of congestion. We got some resistance here. And if you see that blue line, that's the measured move. So that's why that blue line is on there, because that's our measured move over here. And you want to be real careful. Getting long. Where'd it go? Oh, here we are. We're right here. So that's a little bit aggressive. So I'd probably skip that trade. But we run on up to the upper side, and then we just start kind of working sideways. You don't want to go short yet with everything still above the EMA. But finally you get a first entry, and then you're running down, and you get a second entry here, but that's right back at the support resistance line, and just not a very good setup. And you really just, unfortunately, this trend channel right here works all the way down until you finally get a first entry, second entry, and that gives you a break of that. So we'll probably retest that low. So I like going short there. You got plenty of room to get out. It takes it a minute to move on, but it turns out to be a pretty good trade. And then we bounce, and you get a little channel up, close outside, new high, and it turns down right off that trend line. Nice bearish bar, long way away from the EMA. And you could really look at that as a second entry short too, because this looks like a double bottom here. So first entry, second entry. I mean, that only looks like one leg up though. So you really need probably more than, the main reason I marked that one red and not green is because it's off that trend line. And you can clearly see it. And you can see the midline coming into play down through there. So it looks legitimate. And this thing runs straight down. And then we just run sideways again. We get stuck in this channel. And you might have adjusted. This is the way I started out. Actually, I originally started out with it here. And then I adjusted it a little bit up into here. And that to me looks correct. But you could even say it's way up here, and this is just a midline across there, and it fits there too. So doesn't really matter. There's no real good setups there at all. We're just going sideways. Look how flat that EMA is. And other than this one setup here, you don't even really get a setup off the resistance. And we traded, we're trading down now, so we traded down in this, so the odds are we're probably going to break out and trade lower. And that really takes you into 2 o'clock, and we just really never get a good setup there. Just notice how flat that EMA is, how prices are back and forth, up and down. Technically, you can trade that both ways. There's a double test here. Notice that low. Test it once, test it twice. So you might have considered, and it actually breaks lower and turns and goes higher. So that's one that you might consider. But other than that, I didn't see anything this afternoon that that I even would care to enter. So I'll mark that one green just in case some of you probably saw it and will probably ask about it anyway. So it's just such a, I definitely wouldn't go long up here. The only way I would have played this was when it broke lower and turned up, maybe trading as an engulfing bar. Because if it does break lower and then turn up and go right out the other side, that's showing rejection. And you can see we went right up to the other side. So again, you can't wait until this bar closes and go long up here because you don't have enough room. So anyway, crazy day. I don't know how many of you traded. The margin was extremely high. I don't know if we'll go back to regular margin tomorrow. My guess is until this election's over, it's going to continue to be kind of a nutty market. And I mean, really, there's been nothing going on this afternoon. I mean, even the last couple of afternoons, we moved more than that. So I guess people are in wait and see mode, but there's just not much happening right there at all. You can see that. So we'll wait and see what tomorrow brings, what the overnight brings. Hopefully, maybe we'll get this election behind us and we can move forward and kind of get back to a little more normal market. But who knows when that may happen? That may just be wishful thinking. So I'll back out one more time here so you can see the whole thing. I mean, it's really hard to get it all in there without backing way, way out. But yeah, we had a two-tiered channel up. We had a break, a new high. And then we had this channel working down, and we really had an overshoot, which led to a break right into the close. And that's the big picture, and there's lots of little trends and channels within all of that, and there's even more micro trends and channels within those. So it's a tough day just because of the volatility, the volume, and the fact that really from here on it was up and it was just kind of up and down and all over the place. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up so I can get this finished and uploaded. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow and wrap up our week. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.